Every day, people around the world use about 83 million rolls of toilet paper. It's something almost everyone needs, but have you ever wondered how it is made? What happens before it reaches your home? We visited a factory to see how toilet paper is produced. Toilet paper has been around for more than 150 years. It was first made in 1857 by an American businessman named Joseph Gaiety. He sold it under the name therapeutic paper. At that time, it wasn't on a roll like today. Instead, it was sold in small sheets, stacked together. In 1890, another company changed how toilet paper was made. They introduced the roll format, making it much easier to use. This was a big improvement because it allowed people to pull out as much paper as they needed. Today, each person uses about 100 rolls of toilet paper every year. In total, that adds up to about 21 billion rolls worldwide. If you placed all those rolls end to end, they would wrap around the earth many times. Making toilet paper from fresh trees would use up a lot of forests, so many factories now recycle old paper to produce new toilet paper. However, the process of turning rough, used paper into soft, white, and absorbent toilet paper is not simple. It took over 150 years to develop the right method. This paper factory uses a smart recycling process to make high-quality toilet paper. It all starts with collecting huge amounts of used paper from schools, offices, and universities. Once the paper arrives at the factory, it must be carefully sorted. Workers separate different types of paper, such as office paper, magazines, and newspapers. Only the best and cleanest paper is chosen. This is important because some papers have stronger fibers, which makes it easier to turn them into soft toilet paper. After sorting, the paper is packed into large bales. These bales help save space and make it easier to store and transport large amounts of paper. The factory recycles about 200 tons of paper every day. The first machine in the recycling process is called a puller. It is a large industrial tank that works like a giant blender. The bales of paper are put into the puller along with a lot of water. The machine spins fast, breaking the paper into tiny pieces. This turns it into a wet, soupy mix called pulp. The puller has spinning blades that help mix the paper and water. These blades spin for about 10 minutes, helping to separate the tiny paper fibers. These fibers are very important because they will later be pressed together to make new sheets of toilet paper. After the paper is turned into pulp, it must be cleaned. The first step is filtering out large pieces of unwanted materials. The pulp is passed through a special screen that catches anything that didn't dissolve, such as staples, plastic, glue, or tape. Even after this, the pulp still looks dark because it contains leftover ink from printed paper. To remove the ink, the factory uses a process called flotation. During flotation, tiny air bubbles are added to the pulp. Special chemicals called surfactants help the ink stick to the bubbles. As the bubbles rise to the surface, they carry the ink with them. The ink forms a layer of foam on top, which is then skimmed off. After this process, the pulp is much cleaner, but it still has too much water. To fix this, it is squeezed through rollers to remove extra water. Even after the ink is removed, the pulp is still not fully white. This is because of a natural substance called lignin, which comes from trees and is found in newspapers. To make the pulp white, it must go through a chemical process called bleaching. The pulp is placed in a large tank called a bleach tower. Here, chemicals are added to remove lignin and make the pulp whiter. The pulp is kept in the tank for a few minutes at a controlled temperature to achieve the right color. Toilet paper needs to be both soft and strong. To achieve this, factories mix two types of fibers. Short fibers from hardwood trees make the paper softer and brighter. Long fibers from softwood trees make the paper stronger and more durable. Once the pulp is clean and white, it is spread out on a plate and passed through a powerful dryer. This process removes most of the water, allowing the fibers to bond together and form a thin sheet. The pulp has now become a very thin sheet of paper, just 1/10 of a millimeter thick. This paper is rolled into huge parent rolls. Each parent roll holds up to 75 kilometers of paper. These giant rolls are then cut into smaller rolls, the kind people use in bathrooms. In the next step, the large rolls are unwound so they can be processed further. The paper is perforated, which allows it to be easily torn into individual sheets. A special embossing pattern is also pressed into the paper. This gives it texture and softness. Meanwhile, in another part of the factory, large sheets of cardboard are glued together to make the inner tubes of toilet paper rolls. These sheets are cut into smaller tubes and sent to the winding section. The factory makes two-ply toilet paper by combining 2 layers of paper. The thin paper is wrapped around the cardboard tubes to form wide rolls. When a roll is complete, a sharp blade cuts it, and the process repeats. Now, the toilet paper is ready for packaging. Rolls for businesses are wrapped individually in paper, while home-use rolls are packed in plastic bundles of 4 to 30 rolls. And that's it. In about 15 hours, old paper is turned into brand new toilet paper, ready to be used again. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might find it interesting. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep learning.